Hey YouTube, Will here. Today I'm going to be making some high protein fried rice and welcome to the channel. This is probably going to be my first video in a new series vlogs about cooking and my passion for cooking, and what a lot of people may not realize or may know is that with bodybuilding and I think with overall health, it all starts in the kitchen. So welcome. And starting off, I'll be making the rice. You can't make fried rice without rice, obviously. So right here, I've got brown rice. I'm going to be cooking it in a rice cooker. I think it's the best way of making it. I'm using brown rice today because I want to be lowering the GI of the food. Obviously you normally make it with white rice or jasmine rice, but I want to be different. So firstly, I'm going to be measuring my rice. Yes, I'm one of those people. I'd like to weigh everything. Whether you are a bodybuilder or not, I think it is valuable to do. You can also use cups, like that's a very common thing, using cups to measure rice. But I just feel like using a scale today. Basically, how I'm going to do it is I am going to grab my calculator here. Now, roughly 75 grams of uncooked rice will make 200 grams of cooked rice. And I'm going to be making 5 meals here, so I'm going to go 75 times 5. From memory, it roughly makes about 325 grams, or that's how much rice I need to cook that amount. So if I go 75 times 5, that equals 375. So here, I'm going to grab my rice and I'm going to put 375 grams into the rice bowl. Great. Now, because this is brown rice, with white rice I don't like to wash it as much because you're actually removing a lot of the quick absorbing carbohydrates. But with this, with the chemicals and whatnot that brown rice is associated with, arsenic and whatnot, I'm going to give this a good rinse today. Right. Now that I've got that, so 375 grams of rice is almost 2 cups. So I'm going to grab a cup here and I'm measuring. And to those who don't know, 1 cup of rice to cook and to have like a great texture, to be fluffy, needs roughly about 1.5 cups of water. Some people like to use 2, others like to use a little bit less, but yeah, it's roughly about 1.5 cups. So because 375 grams is roughly 2 cups of rice, I will roughly need to use about 3 cups of water. So here's my 3 cups of water here. Going to add that to the rice cooker. Going to place this on the cooker here. And before I start cooking, I'm just going to add a couple of different herbs. Going to add a little bit of clove. Just a tad bit. And maybe some 5 spice. Just going to add a little bit of 5 spice here, just a dash. I'm going to turn the cooker on now. Set it to cook. Place the lid on. Happy days. I'm going to go to the shops now and get the rest of my ingredients. And I'll see you soon. Hey everyone, so back again. Back from the shops. And going to start prepping the veggies. Yes, so I'll be making 5 servings of this fried rice. And what makes this fried rice different to the fried rice you get at, say, your local restaurant is, you know, I've calculated this is optimized in terms of my macros. So, you know, I've accounted for the protein, you know, making sure that I'm not overly consuming carbohydrates coming from sugars, and I'm making sure it has enough protein in it to sustain me, you know. And I guess that leads me on to something I was going to mention before, is another reason why I like measuring each thing that I'm putting into a dish or what I'm eating is it not only does it help you with, like, say, overeating, it also helps you with undereating too. I think a lot of people undereat and don't eat enough of a particular macro. You know, that can even be in terms of fat, like last week and the week before, like during prep and whatnot, you know, looking at what I was eating, I was barely eating fat, so, you know, bringing fats back in just made such a huge difference to how I was feeling every day. So that there, those 2 large breasts is about 1 kilo of chicken, and that's perfect, which means that each serving of this fried rice will have 200 grams of chicken breast in it. And that's honestly the optimum amount of chicken that you should have in a dish. Yeah, so this meal will work out to have about 40 grams of protein. And I guess the way I like to prep all my veg and protein is, you know, thinly sliced, not too big, not too little, just big enough that, you know, as you're eating the dish, there's, you know, everything's roughly around bite-sized and it all complements each other from the perspective of texture. And, you know, a lot of people, and I used to think dieting is hard, but dieting's not actually that hard. It's more just getting an understanding of what works within dieting, you know. I used to think, you know, why am I losing weight? I'm eating just like this person, but I never used to really consider my macros. I used to never really pay too much attention to it. And it's really just sometimes a difference of 50 grams. Like, for instance, I would probably eat before 250, sorry, before I would eat, say, 250 to 300 grams of chicken. And, you know, I used to think, oh, meat's, you know, that's full of protein. But the thing is, when you start increasing your consumption of protein, you're also exposing yourself to higher levels of fat. And if you already have a lot of fats in your diet, that can make the difference, you know, because the metabolism works best, or fat burning works best, when you're either running the body on triglycerides or carbohydrates and glycogen. You know, you got to pick your fuel source. Alright, so that's my protein done. So yeah, I think people who are eager to start losing weight is, you know, just You don't have to count your macros forever, but just getting into the habit of understanding what the nutritional value of your food is. I think one mistake I used to make before when I was younger is certain things like avocado. You know, I think I used to eat like 2 avocados a day, and that's fine, but I just found that eating higher fats, I was never really able to lose weight, and I used to train a lot harder. Back then I trained harder than how I train now. It can be quite counterintuitive. Alright, well, that's it in terms of prep. Pretty easy, isn't it? It's crazy the pricing at the moment for eggs in Australia. One of these is like $5. I think what really determines the essence of fried rice is eggs. Eggs is what really determines and gives fried rice its distinguished flavour. When I make it, I like to use soy sauce. I like to free pour it. It smells terrible, but tastes delicious once cooked. We have a bit of seasoning in the rice. And yeah, that's it. It's very simple. Also going to be using bamboo shoots, which I love. Give that a good stir. And we can start cooking. Okay. And we're ready. I think what also gives fried rice its unique flavour is using a wok, and to me, you know, also having gas as well, evenly distributing heat throughout the pan. And I think the cool thing about a wok is, to me, it kind of reminds me, gives you that charred flavour that you get similar to that of a barbecue. I just realised that I completely forgot to chop up celery earlier, which is, I guess what you say, an aromatic flavour that really adds to that fried rice experience. And once the onion's cooked here, I'm adding in all my hard-based vegetables, or the vegetables that generally take the longest to cook, and that's usually carrot and celery. It's enough now that I can add my chicken. Now, because we have low oil in the pan, we do need to introduce some more fluid, and I'll be doing that with some fish sauce here. going to get smoky. So I can see here that the celery and carrot have cooked perfectly through. And we'll just wait for the chicken to cook. This dish is looking pretty cool. Lots of green colour in there. You know, I think the more vegetables you have in your dish, the more flavoursome it's going to be. So what I'll do is I'll create like a nice little well, and in that little well start adding in the rice here, nice and slowly. Because what happens with this rice is all the sauce that's in the pan, it's going to absorb it, and it's actually going to expand a bit more. So if we're not careful, this wok will overfill. A lot of people like to add their egg in before the rice, and I actually like to do it the other way around, because I like when the rice absorbs the egg. I like a softer fried rice over a more crunchy style of fried rice. So that's all of our rice now. Just really stirring it through. That way we get a well-rendered dish. What I mean by rendered is there's a good ratio between all the ingredients. And I'm once again building a little well. Well, I'm going to add the egg. And I'll slowly stir that through. And it's best to do this on the lowest heat setting possible. That way you don't get scarring of egg, I like to think of it, or this overcooked egg in the middle. And you'll see that the egg starts to cook as it gets stirred through the rice. See that this dish quickly changes its texture again. And it doesn't take long for the egg to cook. It's actually very, very quick. Quicker than even making scrambled eggs. Smells exactly like fried rice. So what do I need? Grab my rice server. And you know, I guess a lot of preppers will, you know, weigh it, but I don't like to when I'm doing this, just because it doesn't really matter. Like, it's the sum of averages, right? So sure, you're going to eat maybe 220 grams of chicken one day and 180 on another day, but it doesn't really matter, because if you're consuming over the week, say a kilo of chicken or a kilo of rice, and you're having a little bit on one day and a little bit more the next, because over the week you're eating the same amount roughly, it all works out to be the same thing. So I don't like to stress too much about how much I'm having in one meal, because over the space of the week I've known I've had that amount, you know, because I've used a kilo of rice and a kilo of chicken. I know that I've eaten enough in that week. And it's also good for your metabolism too, to eat like a little variances throughout each day. You know, it keeps it guessing. And at the same time, I'm still trying to make sure that from visually, they're all roughly the same. And I've actually measured them before, and there's only a variance usually of about 50 to 100 grams. It's my fried, as you can see, that's my 5 servings of fried rice all done. And I'll come back later after leg day and give it a try.